Hey guys, today I got to speak with Ruben from Upon and Burning Body. Uh, he's a bass player, gone lead guitar player. We talk about his transition. We get some business insight from him. Learn about him and his music videos and what got him into that. We even talk about the infamous Twitter incident. So please listen, like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know who you want to hear from next. And I just thank you again for the support. So first I just want to know when you knew music was gonna like play a part of your life.
Oh shit. Well, for me, I mean that was my dad played Tejano conjunto music, so I was kind of raised on it. But I got into metal and a little bit in elementary, new metal. Like I would say that was like me and my friends would have CDs of like Limp Bizkit, Corn, and we would trade. Would like here borrow mine for a week. I'll borrow yours, and we're just like because you back then you had to buy them, so it was like shit. You couldn't afford to have like in every album. So each of us would get a different one, and then we'll trade them and check them out. And then after that, in middle school, I had a friend Joe Lopez, who showed me Iron Maiden and like all these classic rocks. And I was playing all this classic rock. I was playing bass, but what I would do is I would get my dad's bass, and I had a cassette player, like an old like those old two disc with the equalizer and all that. I
Yeah.
had it in my room, and I would just record songs on there. So basically, I was just learning the Kiss playlist. That was like my that was my schooling when I was in like middle school. And then when Joe taught me about Iron Maiden and like all those badass basses, I was just like, holy shit, what is this? Is a lead bass player. I was like, that's what's up. Yeah, and then Les Claypool too. Like they would play that NIB, the one that he's on.
Yeah.
I love that song, dude. When I first heard that, I was like, oh shit, I can hear the bass. It's like fucking bad. Yeah, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, obviously that one too. Like those songs that when they were on the radio, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna learn these. And so I was jamming nothing but radio stuff, and then Joe opened my eyes to like the other shit. And then I had a friend Oscar who showed me like Slipknot, and I was just, and then I just took off from there and started
Took
listening to
off.
my own shit. Yeah, I just started listening to my own shit, whatever, anything that came to mind. Yeah.
So did your dad tell you like, hey, you're gonna play music, or was it just kind of like you just gravitated towards it?
Yeah, I think I just gravitated towards it. Like a lot of my friends growing up, their dads played conjunto too with my pops, and my friend Sebastian played drums, and then his neighbor played guitar. So we started like a little punk rock band in middle school. That was like yeah, right when I started middle school, and I just fell in love with it. Like the feeling of jamming in a room and like the drums and all that. I love music, but actually playing it is a whole different thing. And my dad used to have this giant amp, like it's huge, like 215s, and then he had his 810 and a PV, all PV, old gear, like from the 80s, and but it was loud, and that's the thing. Like I can actually hear it, and I would play through his amp, and it just felt good. Like the room was tiny. It was like a small shed we used to jam in, so I was literally standing like right in front of it. And when I would play, I was just like, "Oh, it feels freaking
Yeah.
amazing!" So it was dope, yeah. And yeah, our parents always supported us as far as like music goes. Like they would buy us gear and just like they didn't care really what we did as far as like, oh, you got to go to college and you got to do this, or just like don't get in trouble, don't call me, it's just you know be decent, and that's all they cared about. So whatever we were doing, they're like, I was cool. So my dad would drive me to shows. Like when I was younger, he would have to vouch for me because I couldn't get in the bars, and he would have to go with me to the shows. It's weird because I would always jam out with older people. Like even in middle school and like high school, I was always jamming out with like older dudes because I was good. I was decent. So I would end up with these older bands, but every show they're like, "How old is this kid?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm like 16."
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad would have to go, or they would always have to vouch for me, and I'd have to sit there with my wristband, just hang out. Yeah,
Man, I
but
feel
yeah,
that.
that's it. And then obviously we started a band and started playing with all the guys, and that's how we met and shit like that. And yeah,
Yeah, I remember seeing you. I don't know. It's the first time, but like I think you were playing guitar, and I think it was at the Black Sheep, like on Broadway. Remember that like art kind
Yeah.
of thing? It was like a big warehouse in the back. I think y'all played. I don't remember the name of your bands.
It was Dying from the Inside Out. It would have had to been, or Four Stories Deep. It was one of those
I
two.
think it was that one. Four
No,
Stories
you know
Deep.
what? It was Dying because in Four Stories Deep I played bass, and then when and Dying from the Inside Out was the only
Okay.
band I played guitar in at that time,
Yeah.
and then every other band I was bass. So yeah, it had to been a Dying from the Inside Out then.
Yeah, that
And,
was a long time ago.
yeah, that was a long time ago. Was it that show when all that shit went down?
I think so. I think I left before.
Like everybody got
Uh,
maced and like all that craziness happened.
yeah, I heard the stories.
That was
I think we
brutal.
we left before all that stuff happened.
Man, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because man, it was no mercy. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
We're
I
all
mean,
dying and they're coughing. But somebody threw sprayed mace and jumped our Robert. You remember Robert? Big Rob, tall, big guy.
sound familiar?
He used to play in a pond before I joined. He played bass and he used to play in this band called Lysis. I forgot what they changed their name to. Honor, something honor. Oh, I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue.
May I'm sure I would recognize him. Um, like a funny story before Upon got together with Sal. Like me and Sal were still in 11th hour, and I was at like one of the first practices with Danny, and I think it was Ricky,
John Andrew
and
was there, right?
maybe like, but I remember playing bass, and I was like, oh cool, like I might do something else. And then after that it was just like nothing ever happened, at least for me. Like y'all continue, but I was like, that's cool. I was kind of at one of the beginnings. I don't think it was like Upon yet. I think it was the idea
The
where Sal
idea
and
of
Danny
it.
were like trying to get stuff together.
Yeah, I remember. So I hadn't talked to Danny in years. Like we grew up together. Like I knew him when I was like 6, and we lived together for a couple years, and then our parents split up. So I didn't see him in like years. And then high school comes around, and we start going to shows at Sin 13, and that's where I ran into him again. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm starting a new project." He's like, "You should come check it out." And I was already in like 3 bands, so I was like, "All right, I'll go check it out." And I started going and hanging out more and more. And then Robert ended up leaving because he's like, I'm gonna go, pursue my other band because I think they're gonna do, big things. So I can't focus on 2 bands. So he dipped out, and I was like, well, I'll play bass. I don't mind. I was like, I already got like 3 other bands. I'll jump in, fuck it, and that's when I started playing bass, and it was PB. I was jamming on bass, Ray, Sal, and then John Andrew it wasn't John Andrew, it was April. His girlfriend at the time was playing keyboards. So it was like pretty much like bleeding through kind of vibe, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And but then when it solidified, it was more just us, and no April and everybody, all of us getting down in that room and writing shit. And before you know it, we're playing shows. And I think that Black Lion show Robert played, and then after that, I think that was his last show, and then I jumped on bass.
Yeah.
And it's
Damn.
the Fun Town days. So I like
Yeah, man. Uh, I guess I wasn't really planning on it, but we can totally talk about the San Antonio music scene. Like, I guess when we were in our like teens, kind of, because it was
backyard.
pretty. Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. Like backyard shows, Funtown. So for people non-San Antonio, Funtown is like an amusement park, but a really just like generic kind of on the poor side of town, just something for
Rough.
like, for some kids to go and
The
play
go
video
karts
games.
backfire. They're all freaking taking off, and yeah, there's holes in the half pipe. It was. I would even say it's a music park. It's just like a ghetto. What is that? What was a good one over here?
With the
Malibu.
castle Malibu.
like a ghetto Malibu. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Malibu Castle is like the higher up, like they had like water bumper boats
They
and
had the Grand Prix.
yeah, the go-karts and mini
Yeah.
golf. So we had that on the west side and it was called Funtown. And I guess for whatever reason they're just like to get kids in, maybe they're just like we're gonna throw hardcore shows.
I think I don't know if it was Buddy that asked first, Chris's brother.
Mhm.
So somebody had booked the show, and then Buddy started getting in with them, and they were so happy. They didn't care about anything. They're like, "Dude, give us like." They didn't even care about the money. They were just like, all the snack bar would just be wiped out. Like they would buy all these snacks, and by the end of the night, there was nothing around, so everybody would just tear up the ramen cups and all their snacks. And every time we would go in there at the end of the night, it was gone. So they were just like they're stoked. They're like, look, we don't care. Just, you don't gotta rent anything. You just get that to happen.
Yeah.
Stoked because there was nobody going. Like it was just that place was a ghost town.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how they made it. I don't think they lasted much after like the music was gone
Nah.
from there.
I think they rented out the trailers to like a counseling thing because we'd wait by. But I know recently I saw on Facebook that somebody bought it and they're actually
Ooh.
going to try to renovate and get it going again and fix it up. And I'm like, dude, they should just make it into a venue, like just add a room and make it into a venue. And I always thought that they were going to close off that patio and be like, this could just be a venue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been.
Are you the type of person to like drive by a spot and be like, this should be a venue right here? Or
Yeah.
like
Oh,
this.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, being from here, I always thought like, man, it would be cool to have our own venue and like, obviously, I don't know even where to begin, but I just always thought like, man, it would be dope to have our own venue and be able to run it and the way we want to do it and make sure it's legit for other musicians. Because so many times you go and it's just like it's shot or just they don't have the right, they don't have good gear. Like they don't care about the sound system. They're just like, you got like 3 channels and the rest don't work. Somebody spilled a beer on it, whatever. Like you just gotta make it work. Kick and vocals. That's all you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, now with your experience like touring everything, like what does the perfect venue like have for you?
Um, it's a mixture. I would say it's a mixture of hospitality and like the gear up to date, having a good sound system. Like that's always makes me stoked when I go in there and I see like they've invested in the venue, the sound system's badass because that means like we don't got to worry about it. Like our sound guy can do his job and push it the way he wants to and without worried about blowing everything. And we show up to some venues and there's like extension cords plugged into extension cords to power strips and it's just like everything's run off of one plug and you're like, man, you already know that's just gonna pop. And in the middle of the set, sure enough, you're playing and all the lights go off, the PA turns off, and you're like, there you go. That's what happens when you play bad venues. So yeah, I always look for that. And then yeah, you can always tell by the way the people treat you. There's a professionalism. Some places you go and they're just like dickheads. They've been at it too long and they're just like, fuck these guys. Who are you? Like, I don't care. Like, just get on and get off and get out of here. So yeah, we definitely appreciate the nice venues. And we always tell our booking agent too, whenever we find a dope venue and like the crew and everybody's like really nice, we'll be like, this is where we want to play. When we come here, this is where we play, and that's it. Like, this is dope. So yeah, we take note for sure.
That's awesome. When so when the pond started, like y'all y'all got like going fast in the scene. Like what do you think like it was about y'all that really had like a local fan base so quickly, in my opinion? Or maybe if you feel you didn't, you can totally say that too. But I feel like you blew up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did because I mean I had been in a bunch of local bands before, and I was used to playing in front of like 5 people, like your homies, just like woo in the crowd. So, when we started upon and stuff started popping off, I don't know. I think it's just everybody's influence just came in and it created something unique and something that nobody else was really doing as much. Or I don't know. I don't know what it was because there's definitely bands doing metalcore, but and also we all had experience. We were all in other local bands, and then we started this group and kind of I feel like honed in on what we were good at, and we just ran with it and constantly trying to evolve, trying to figure out what we're gonna do next. And it was weird because we like if you hear the demos, obviously like they're completely different from our first album. It's like a whole new band. So, but I love those days. Like I always joke around with Danny. I was like, we should just re-record it and release it. Re-record Genocide for the
That would be sick.
right?
Uh,
It's so easy now too. Like we got everything to record, so it's like let's just do it, have fun.
yeah, for
Really
sure,
easy.
man. I remember y'all played like at again at not another like venue, just some like warehouse off of Culebra or like the west side. Didn't y'all play with Thumb Screw? And it
Damn.
was like a random like outside. Y'all were playing outside.
Was it at the hookah place? Was that the hookah show?
No, it was
We played.
before that, I think.
Damn. Yeah, I remember we played that hookah place and like the owner busted out his gun and everybody was like, oh, it's like
I remember
yeah.
that.
What
Jeez,
was
man. People are gonna
yeah,
think
so
San
many
Antonio's
memories.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Back in the day, nobody cared, and it was nuts with those shows anywhere. Man, I can't remember the warehouse with them. I know we played with
Uh,
them school a lot, so I'm trying to think.
yeah.
I know we
Uh,
did a Fun Town show with them for sure, and we
uh,
played the Black Lion with them as well.
this is like it was like an outdoor. I don't know if it was like a metal like scrapyard or someone's like maybe like it wasn't like an auto place. I don't know. It was just
Oh, it was for our genocide EP
yeah,
release.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of my ex girlfriend Katie's mom's friend. He just owned this place, and we're like, "Can we borrow your parking lot?" And it got packed. It was crazy. That was a crazy night too. That was a good show. Yeah, I think everybody had fun. No, no, nothing bad happened at it either. I don't think so, other than the typical injuries. But nobody got in
Yeah.
a fight or like you know what I mean. Usually there's fights, and it's like it's always one necio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point did you know that like Upon was gonna like actually tour and be like a part of the label? Like when did you like feel that it was y'all's time?
Probably not till after we signed the contract, just because everything was so uncertain. We're just like, man, is it gonna happen? And we did the battle for the bands, and we made it all the way to Cali. We won that, and then they offered us a deal. And after we signed the contract, it's like, okay, we're in it. It's a 4 album deal, like and sure enough, it took us about almost 10 years to do that, and so that was pretty much all right. And then we hit it after we signed the deal. It was like tour after tour after tour after tour. And I was like, okay, this feels legit now. Like, and we're on decent tours, so it was cool. It was awesome doing those first couple of tours and being like, all right, this is what's up. Because we did the DIY tours too. We did about 3 or 4 of them. We went East Coast and then we went to West, and it was brutal. It was rough. Like I remember in the middle of it calling my family and being like, I need you guys to send me money because I don't have anything to eat, and like, you know what I mean. They weren't able to pay us tonight, or the buyout was just, or they just gave us a pizza to share, and we're all hungry now. And if we don't save this money for gas, then we're not gonna make it to the next show. So yeah, we're all calling everybody was on the phone, and it's like, all right, we got to go to a Western Union now, and we got to go get some money. So it was
Man,
brutal.
I think that's not something people like recognize. Even being a signed band, like that's
Bro.
what you're running into. Like, is there any advice that you have for people who just like they don't have to be signed, but just want to start touring, like pointers?
I would just say, just don't bite off more than you can chew. Like, go small, take as little amount of crew as you can, like do everything yourself. Hustle, obviously, because your guarantee isn't going to cover everything. You're not making a lot of money as an opening band. You're probably making 100, $200 a night, maybe. And then you got to use that to get to the next show and to the next show. And hopefully if every show goes through, some of those shows don't have enough people and they're like, oh, we're going to cancel the show. And you're like, oh man, now we got to drive 10 hours to the next show. And so you always got to have that reserve cash too, so right, my advice is to save up your own money before you go out on the road, and that way you have that cushion and for emergencies or if anything happens. And hustle, that's the main thing too, because merchandise will save you if you're a good hustler and you're able to sell enough merch, then that'll carry you through the whole tour.
Um, Great advice. What about like merch? So I think something about Upon is that the merch that y'all come out with is like really cool looking designs, like just really like I think that some of your merch, like you don't even need to know who the band is. Like the design's just so good that it
Oh,
just drags people to like purchase it. Like how
yeah.
did y'all go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going with the times and trying to hit like, social things that are going on. And like I remember we did a on Warp Tour, we did a King of the Mosh shirt, and it had our band name on there on the back, like, but that's it. And it said King of the Mosh, and that shirt just flew. Everybody wanted it, and it wasn't even like like you said, it wasn't branding us like big time. It was just because it was a Texas thing. We're like, okay, we can do King of the Mosh, Texas Pete. We would always do all these like little Texas things, but yeah, sometimes you just the simplest thing will sell the most. Like I feel like when we have a really thought out design and like idea, and we're like, we want it on this kind of shirt, this color, and like we go all in, and that's just a shirt that doesn't sell. Like nobody buys it. And I was like, and that's also knowing who you're selling to and
Yeah.
who your crowd is. That's a big thing because we catch ourselves like coming up with these trendy things, and I was like, I have to kind of check the guys sometimes. I'm like, this is just, I don't think any of our fans are gonna buy this. Like it's a little too much. Like it's I don't think not every metalhead has that kind of trendy style. They just want a black T-shirt with your logo on it, and they're happy with that. So we try to have a little bit of variety, but to satisfy everybody, like we do a lyric tee, we'll do a graphic shirt, and that's another thing. I think I can't stress this enough is not to take out too many designs, because there's definitely what do you call that? Like where there's just too much to look at. So a person is less likely to buy something because there's like 15 shirts that they got to pick from, and then you may not have the sizes, and it just turns into a big hassle, and then you waste more time because you have to look at all the shirts. It's just like four shirts, you know what I mean? A hoodie, another little trinket or whatever, and just keep it simple so people just see it like, boom, there it is, that's my shirt, you know what I mean? It's not overkill.
That's awesome. That's honestly something I probably wouldn't have thought of. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, and then you're not left over with so much stuff too after tour. If you have six designs, you're always going to be left with one of them's not going to sell, and then you're going to be like, oh man, I got all these extra. We sat on shirts for like 3 years. I was like, dude, let's just give them away already. Like, just get rid of them. These are so old. They're like from 2 albums ago. Like, shit.
um so we'll talk about your albums. Like what was your experience like going into the studio as upon like the first time? Were you playing only bass on that album, or did you help
Yes,
out?
yes. I only played bass because Chris and Sal. I would help Chris write as well, but Chris and Sal tracked everything, and I just worried about bass. And I was always a stickler because I listened to all those, like Steve Harris, and I love putting like moving bass lines. Like if they repeat anything on a riff, like they're like, okay, this riff is on an open A, and they're just jamming on this riff, then I'm gonna move that root note. Like I'm gonna move it and make it interesting, and because I would love that about Maiden. Like he always would add those root notes, and they'd just be doing the lead, and it would just sound so cool to me. It's like having another guitar player. So whenever I would write bass, that's the way I would always try to do it. And even now, like I still write the bass for the band, and I try to incorporate elements because I'm like, man, I just don't. Most metal bands, the bass you can't even hear it; it's just in the back, it's hidden. You know what I mean? And I'm always like, come on, like it's louder, pick it up, like make it louder. I want to hear it.
Yeah. I remember like, and it's the first thing that comes to mind, but you did like a little bass line at the end of your Pantera cover, and I was like, hell yeah, that I could totally
Something,
hear
right?
it. Yeah, I could
Give me
totally
some.
hear it.
Yeah.
So like, what's the difference between going into the studio for the first time versus like your newest records or EPs that you're doing?
Well, I think there's a fear, like you're intimidated because you've never been there, and we're working with Will Putney, he was just up and coming at that time, but the studio that he worked with, recorded so many great bands, and I was just like, damn, like this is legit, and we had to go and rent an apartment in Jersey and stay there, so it was intimidating at first, and you don't really want to speak up too much, like, because the producers, you trust them, and they'll tell you things, and you're like, okay. And but as an artist, that is your creation, so you sometimes you have to be stern on things, and you just have to be like, we love this part and we really don't want to change it, and they have to be okay with that, if it comes down to it. But most of the times we got along with our producers, and we were open. And especially now, when working with Chris Mora and my brother, when we write, it's just like we'll just be real, and we're just like, that sucks, like, let's just change it, like, no, let's change it. And we were never able to do that. Like, we are always kind of walking on eggshells and didn't want to, step on everybody's toes. But yeah, so that relationship is important, when you go into record, having that relationship with your producer, and being able to just be real and be like, all right, let's change this part because it's not working.
Awesome. So when did you start transitioning from bass to guitar in the band?
I got thrown into it like hard, like just it was literally, I want to say 2 weeks before we left for Europe. And Chris decided to step out because he was gonna have his little boy. So, and he stepped out for that reason, mainly to do the family thing. And man, it was tough. There's like, we can't cancel this tour because it was our tour with As Lay Dying, Trivium, and Caliban, and it was just gonna be a really sick tour. So we're just like, we can't cancel, like. So I had helped Chris write the songs on guitar. So I was like, well, the only thing, it's going to be a lot easier for me to jump on guitar than to have to teach these songs to somebody. So I was like, let me jump on guitar and let's try to find a bass player. And that's when we asked Seth. Luckily, he had his passport. I was like, yes, he has a passport. He's a homie. And so he went with us on that run. And it was a crazy tour. It was a really, really, really amazing tour. That one was just, I was sweating because I hadn't played our music on stage. I played guitar, but that was like in the local days, playing easy ass riffs. Like,
Yeah.
sitting down and writing these songs, me and Chris it was pretty technical. So I was like, like, here we go. So the first couple shows, I was literally just planted there, just looking at my guitar, just not even moving, and everybody else is going off, and I'm just like trying to not to mess up. And then probably about, like, a weekend, I was like, okay, I got it. I can do this and figure it out. But man, it was stressful. I was like, every night I just stayed up so late just trying to figure out those songs and make sure they sounded good.
Yeah, man. Seth was saying like when he joined the band for the tour, that he just like saw you practice like for hours, just like repetition. Which for Seth and I agree too. Like that's probably the best way to practice like anything, whether it be bass guitar. Like, how do you normally go about like practicing?
Yeah, so at this point, like, we have so many songs that we've written. I honestly forget them. Like, I don't, like, right now, since we've been off, I forget solos and leads and all that. So usually about a month before we're gonna go out again, I'm always in writing mode, so I'm always playing guitar. But as far as our songs go, I always have to brush up and kind of dust it off, and then, so I'll usually create a set, and then I'll just start, yeah, like you said, just start repeating it and getting everything back. And the main thing too is when you're practicing, like when we practice with the band, and there's a problematic area in the song that I feel, I always tell them, like, after we go through the song, like, let's revisit this part of the song. Because if you just keep skipping it over, you're playing the song, but you just kind of keep hitting this little area where it's just not working out, and you don't ever address it, then it's never going to get fixed. Like, I remember I learned songs, and sometimes I would be playing a wrong note the whole time, and I didn't realize it until I went back and listened to the song again, and I was like, shit, I've been playing the wrong note, like, what a dumbass. And I'm just like, shit. So now I practice more with the songs and try to figure it out that way. But yeah, when we're practicing, we're definitely going back and like, okay, let's do this part again and again and again until it comes back to us and we feel like it's tight, and then we'll move on to the next song. And yeah, it's crazy. It's stressful too because Tito is in Michigan, so we only get to rehearse, like, we usually fly him in about a week or two before we play our first show, and we just hit it hard in like 3 or 4 days.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's stressful, but and you know what it is? It's getting out there and just playing the show too. Like that's part of it. Like usually after our first couple of shows, we get in the groove, and it's just easy after that. We just go up there and it's chill.
Hell yeah. Damn, I didn't know he lived so far away.
Yeah, yeah, he flies in every time, and and then we rehearse for about a week or two, and that's it. We go for it.
Mm.
But that's why it's important for everybody to practice individually. We always before we do that, I usually create the set and I send it to everybody. I was like, this is a full set, how we're gonna play it, interludes and everything, and I'll bounce it out like that, and then send it to everybody, and that way they can practice it.
Man.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Um, do you ever look up tabs of your own songs?
No, and it sucks because everybody asks for them, and I'm just like, I'm not a theory person. So like to break it down, like timing signatures and keys and all that stuff, I've always just jammed. And I mean, I know my notes. Like I can tell you what note I'm playing, but I have to figure it out. Like I'm not just like, oh, this is a G right here. Just hit that A or whatever. And I'm not that savvy with it. It sucks because I know it's like the language, and I probably should know it by now, but. I've always just jammed, man. I have a great ear, so that's how I've always learned. I hear it and I'm just like, boom, I got it, and
Yeah.
it just works. It works for me until I have to go play with like a band that is a session band or whatever. I'm gonna be like, fuck, I don't know.
What's the like most recent thing you've done any bass on other than Upon? Like, have you tried like just jamming or doing any studio stuff with bass?
Yeah, definitely. I really want to do a bass driven band. Like, I love Nothing More.
Hmm.
Heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me, I love that sound, and just like how the bass is so heavy. Well, on the last album, it was really heavy, and the guitar is almost like just accenting it with like these high little affected guitar licks, like not really like a real riff. It's just like noise, but the bass is just like, oh, it's just jamming, and that's kind of what I want to do. I've been trying to work it out, like the sound, develop the sound, but I want to do like a really bass driven song because I feel like there hasn't been a really cool band like that that's come out, like like a Tool or like all those bands, Primus, and not that funky. I would say more like alternative, like like a Tool style where it's like you can just feel the bass. Yeah, but I've been trying to develop that, and I would like to do something like that, bass and drum driven, because I'm like I love guitar, but I love to experiment with different shit and try new things.
So if like I guess you were given the opportunity, or maybe you have it already, like would you switch back to playing bass in Upon if you?
Oh yeah, I love bass. I love it, man. I miss it. I miss it sometimes. Well, I track our stuff, and
Mhm.
I miss it. Like I could tell. Like I'm just like, damn, this is like me, because my
Yeah.
dad too. He played bass, so I almost feel like it's more genuine to me, at least the bass. It's still ingrained more than guitar. Like I kind of had to get pushed into the guitar. It's
Yeah.
funny because I got all these damn guitars now, but I don't have all these basses. But still, like, and every once in a while I'll throw one on, and I'll just put on some Maiden, and revisit my youth and go through all the Maiden songs. Because, dude, when me and Joe were jamming in middle school, we seriously must have known like 20 or 30 Maiden songs. Like we were just jamming every day. That's all we did after school. I'd go to his house, and he had that live live after death. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where they went to
Uh,
San Antonio at the Alamo Dome and all that
yeah.
that same tour. He would throw on that, and we'll just go through it the whole fucking concert and just play every song on there and jam along with it because we didn't have a drummer at the time, so we were just jamming.
Yeah, that was a little heavy Maiden. That was
Yeah,
Life After Death. Yeah,
I
they
love
got
it.
kind of heavy and dark.
Yeah,
Uh
that's because of Power Slave, right? That's when they dropped Power Slave and all that.
yeah, I remember too like talking to you and you were like talking about Brave New World one time. I was like, hell yeah! Like, there's someone who's in the hardcore scene that knows about Iron Maiden or listens to
Yeah.
Iron Maiden because, like,
Yeah.
man,
I
see
know
for
that tripped me out too when you told me that your pops was like all about it, and I was like, what? I was freaking out when when you were telling me about all the memorabilia, and I was like, damn, that's so sick because I was a super fan. Yeah, I love it, and still to this day when we're writing riffs, I always refer it to that like. Let's throw in like a maiden riff, and I'm always like, dual guitars, harmony, and always like I'm just like, this is the maiden song. Every album we got to have a little maiden song.
yeah, you could totally hear that in your EP, in the Genocide EP. You could hear the influence,
Right? Yep.
a
Yep.
hundred
Exactly.
percent.
The little
Um,
harmonies.
yeah, it's something I want to touch on. When you started working like with Matt and Trivium, like how was that experience?
Oh, it's good, man. He's a super down to earth person, and like we did that tour with him, and that's how it all started, and they took us on tour. It's weird because we didn't really fit in. We're definitely like the heavy band on tour, or more progressive, I'd say, because they were pretty mainline like metal, and same thing with As They Die, and they were in that conversion where they're already starting to go the more metal route. And then Caliban was from over there, so they had a huge following, and we were just there playing this like red, white, and green at the time. So it was pretty technical for what the tour we're on. And it's funny because it would sometimes we would see the crowd and they'd be like taken back, like what the fuck is this? Like it was too much for them, you know what I mean? But either way, we became friends, and we asked if he would be on the track, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to, and he ended up doing that track with us, and that song is probably the maiden song on that album. It's definitely like the more metal, like power metal kind of vibe, and I was stoked. I was like a little kid because growing up on Ascendancy and kind of having that be our influence, like that's a badass thing. Is I guess when we first started this band, we got all of our influences we got to tour with and like go out on the road and experience that and become friends with some of them. And I remember we did the Haste a Day tour, and that was one of our biggest like
Oh yes.
influences. And we are like, yes, we get to tour with them. And we're so stoked about that tour, and it was a small tour. It wasn't like a crazy huge turnout every night, but for us it meant the world because we're getting to tour with some of our biggest influences.
Yeah, man. And Slipknot, didn't you do some things with Slipknot?
Yeah, that was another one too, man. Like after my friend Oscar showed me them in middle school, I literally like that CD. I brought the bonus one that had like the bonus track on it. It was like all silver, and I remember having my CD player, the Ultra no skip, freaking big ass CD player, and me and my dad at the time would go to the laundromat, and it was just constantly on repeat, like that album until it didn't work anymore. It just burnt out, and I was just like, oh, that's it. But yeah, literally, that was my jam all through middle school. So coming back and being able to tour with them and watch them. We watched them every single night. Like every night, we'll make it down there. No matter what we're doing, we're like, we gotta go watch Slipknot. We can get front row. Like when are we gonna be able to do that again? And so we did it, man. We went out there and we broke down, and we became friends with some of them, and it was cool. It was just, it's surreal. Like still to this day, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? That we got homies that play in Slipknot, and it's just, it's nuts, man. It's crazy that we've gone like full circle to now we're kind of back in like the mid-size rooms, because there isn't any big metal festivals anymore like that. So which sucks, but hopefully when it comes back, there'll be one. There'll be like an Ozfest or some kind of like, there needs to be, right, like a big metal festival that just goes everywhere.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously the pandemic has just impacted the scene here and just everywhere in general. Um, what do you like? What advice do you have for bands right now that are experiencing this? You can't really play or tour. Like, what advice do you have for them to kind of get their name out?
I would say, just write as much as you can. Like now's the time to be creative and reinvent yourself if you want to try new things. You know what I mean? Try to experiment and see where it goes, see where it takes you. Content, as always, like you got to come out with content videos, think of new ways to do things, just chatting like this, obviously doing podcasts and keeping your name out there any way you can. And yeah, just staying engaged with your fans, without trying to be biased. And that's the thing that sucks, is like everything right now is about the pandemic and politics and all that stuff. And I stay out of it, because I don't want to, I don't want to get engaged in all that stuff. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care, what you believe in. I rather just stay out of it, because to me it's just, there's no winning. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when you're at that family gathering and somebody brings up
Mm.
politics, it's nobody's, there's never an end to it. So it's just like, why even go there? Even if you don't believe in something or you don't agree with it, it's like, it sucks, because I saw a post today that was kind of like, musicians, you guys should speak up. You have a voice and you could change things and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, but you can also destroy your career by
Yeah.
not saying the wrong thing. You could destroy everything you've worked for your whole life. So it's just not worth it. It's best just to stay out of it. And just people will be people, and you can't really do anything about that. Yeah. And plus, I've never been a fan of like the aggressive, like arguments, and just especially with politics. Like, I feel like it's gotten to the point where it's like almost like it is like a religion, and people are like, you believe in that, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just, I hate it right now. It's because it's all anything that's all everybody's talking about, and I'm just like, holy shit. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
man. It's definitely good to have a perspective, like your perspective, because it's not. I just like you said, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you can tell all these people or whatever," but like you also have to keep your business mindset.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's what it is, man. Exactly. Yeah, it's just like any big business. They're not going to go out there and start talking. I mean, some of them have, and you see what happens to them. You know what I mean? They get the backlash and they get canceled or whatever, and it's just like,
yeah,
shit. It's crazy. Saying one thing, even if it's in the past, like, now people are digging up the past, and they're like, well, 10 years ago you said this shit, and you're fired. Like, damn, it's fucked. It's crazy, man.
yeah,
Luckily, we've had our drama in with all that stuff, and it's behind us. And luckily, none of that has ever come back to haunt us anymore. Like, people would bring it up, the whole kidnapping thing and all that stuff. But now it's kind of like, I feel like with the new music and the new direction, people are just kind of, they're just like, whatever. It's old. I mean, shit, that happened like almost like 8 years ago.
yeah.
Shit.
That's been a minute.
Yeah, or 6 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Uh, we can touch briefly on it. You can skip it if you want, but I remember when that happened, dude. I like messaged Sal and I was like, "Is it for real? Like, is everything okay?"
It
Uh,
seemed real, right? Like
dude,
everybody.
it was pretty convincing. I think now you can go back on it, and then recognize like the setup
Yeah.
for the promo picture or whatnot. Like you can see it now.
Well, that wasn't even. That's the crazy part, is that wasn't part of it, and it just kind of happened that way. And I was like, we're either the we're either really smart or really dumb, because I was like, the world is my enemy now, and
Yeah.
he found it, and I was like, this might just be like the coolest, like,
Well,
because
that I
everybody
mean,
hate us, and now the world is my enemy, and it's just like, no, but it really wasn't supposed to happen like that. And I think now we could talk about it, but it wasn't our idea, and that's the thing. And we got thrown under the bus for it, which sucks. And it wasn't our publicist. It wasn't the publicist. It was somebody from the label that gave us the idea, and it was so last minute that it didn't make it down the chain. So when we did it, people didn't, like, not everybody knew about it, and on the team and all this stuff. So everybody started blowing them up, and we're like, what can we do to help? And like, everybody thought it was so serious, and I was like, man, I was like, if we would have made like a little video or something, then it would have, people would have known it was fake and it wasn't like a real thing. And I was like, but even then, like, like you said, reading it now, like how would you even think that it was real? Like, oh yeah, I'm in danger. Let me tweet real quick and be
Yeah.
like, hey. And but either way, we did hurt a lot of people, and it was a bad move. And but you know, it happens. I mean, that's the thing. Like thinking about it too, I'm like, we're in a heavy metal band. And like, you know, these motherfuckers burn down churches and kill each other and do all sorts of crazy shit. We tweeted, you know, a little something, and it's like everybody's like, you, and you know, you lied to us. And I was just like, fuck. Well, we learned our lesson, that's for sure. And you know, I mean, we won't follow anybody else's ideas like that anymore. We're like, let's chill on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was crazy. We did get a lot of backlash. So I was like, damn. And same thing, we're getting hit by family and friends, and everybody was just like, don't answer, don't
yeah.
say anything, like don't say anything to anybody. And we're just like, okay, we'll write it out. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. South for real left me on red too. And I was just like,
yeah,
oh, come on, man.
don't answer.
All right. So throughout your career, you've done Upon has made like a bunch of music videos, cool looking, like it's and now you're doing music videos. Um, is that just something that you picked up like while you're doing them yourself, or is it just something you've always been wanting to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's where I realized that how creative it was, and I always loved to do that for our stage show. Like I was always trying to incorporate like a theatrical kind of thing to it, and you know it's hard. You got to get everybody has to be down to do it, and that's why it didn't really work out for us. But you know, just having that mindset of building props and like doing cool shit, and the thing I think with a lot of videographers is that you know some of them have the school and the knowledge and all that, but they're not musicians. So when they edit, that's where the issue comes in. Like we would do so many videos where like the footage was amazing, like we're like, oh, that's so sick, and then they'd send us the edit and none of the stuff they showed us was in the video, and I'm just like, where's all the cool shit you showed us? Like what's going on? And or you know the cuts were off, like they didn't really sync up, and I was just like, man, or the you know the drums were doing something completely different than what the song is playing, and you're doing a fill and it's just like a chill beat, and I'm just like, man, like you know I think that kind of was like maybe I'll have an upper hand because I'm an actual musician and I can actually you know emphasize these parts. So when I edit videos and I hear cool shit going on in the song, like a cool guitar lick, automatically that's what I'm gonna show is that sick ass lick or the drum fill or like you know, and I pay attention to that so when I'm editing I can build the song that way, and also from writing music, knowing that you know you want to build up your song to have a peak, you know, and to have that peak kind of 3/4 of the way in. Like that's the same way I do my videos. I'm like there has to be like a wow moment so people will want to watch it over and over and over again, because if it doesn't have that moment, then why listen to a song or why watch anything? You know, if a movie's just coasting and then there's no like exciting, nothing exciting, you're just like, oh, like what I just watched, it sucks. So that's my mindset. You know, just trying to have a musical sense when editing videos and just really trying to build it up in that way. And it's worked so far. You know, all the bands I've done videos for, they're stoked, and you know they take notice to it. You could tell like the drummer's stoked because he's like, oh, you got my fill. Like you know, they work hard on the music and they write these badass parts, but you know half of them don't get to see them or anything. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
man.
been my whole background. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Is that like what you're trying to do moving forward? Like you want to
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah, I love it. I love being creative. I love working with the bands and just, you know, trying to help them bring their vision to life. And, you know, I'm not charging them an arm and a leg. Like if they went to an expensive production company, I do it for cheaper. So, cause I know how it is, you know, I know it's hard to come up with those funds. You know, everybody's working, trying to scrounge up money to record and make videos and do all that. So I always try to help out bands, and then it also turns into like a consultation. Like you know they want to know like, well, what you know what do we do with this video, you know, and I'm just like, well, you know, and I try to help them out in that sense too for free. I don't charge them for that. I'm just like, hey, like you know this is what I would do. You know, you guys have this really cool vibe and try to push it here or do something different than everybody else. And so yeah, I just want to help bands because I think there's a lot of good talent right now, especially in San Antonio and in Texas in general. There's so many good bands, and sometimes I see some of their stuff that they're putting out, and I'm just like, man, they can do better, and they can have something that goes with their vibe, and not something kind of off the wall and weird, and just kind of help push them in that direction.
Um, so on that note, just a quick and easy note. It doesn't have to be super detailed. Like, what advice do you have for maybe bands who get a music video through you, or just a music video in general? Like, what are just some general like things you recommend for them to get that video out?
I think my main thing when I talk to bands is location, like just trying to find a cool spot that whether they have a friend or a family member that has a garage or like a rundown building or something like that. I think that's been my biggest issue is trying to find a cool, unique location because and if I can't, then it's usually we got to set up a black backdrop or something to film them and then create that illusion with lighting and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I think save up and find that location, and I think that's pretty much the biggest thing is have a cool spot to record the video, and then everything else will fall in line.
Perfect. So how can people get in touch with you to record any music videos?
I have a Facebook page that's RA underscore creative, and it's with a V. There's no E on creative. It's just creative with a V at the end. And then mine is Ruben UABB Alvarez. Yeah, you can hit me up too.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, I appreciate the time so much. It was awesome. We definitely need to catch up again. Now you're in town, we can go get some tacos.
Yeah, yeah. Show me the spots, man. I'll show you some spots.
Hey, let's do it. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate it again, and you just have a good night, and we'll
You
catch
too.
up soon.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, man. Good
All right,
talking.
dude. Later.